get ready. We gotta get ready, get ready. We gotta get ready.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Real Talk, Real Change. I'm Judy Bradley, and I am here with my husband, Ruben Bradley. And our special guest we have this evening is Mr. Daniel Williams.
Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
You are so welcome. Thank you for joining. And my husband, pretty much, he's going to do the introduction or introduce. He knows more. Him and Daniel have been friends for a long time. So I am going to let my husband take over, but I'm still gonna be here.
Trust me, you still.
I'm gonna still be here, but I'm gonna let him take over
We know.
the conversation with him and Daniel. All right, man. Go ahead.
Hi everyone, I'm Ruben Bradley. I'm Judy's husband, and I don't want to make this a big long one because I've known this guy for quite a few years, and it was just like the minute we crossed paths, it was an instant connection there. I could say that this is my brother from another, and how it doesn't really even matter how far we get from each other. It's like we just never left. You know what I mean? We pick up from where we are, and we're so humorous that when we get together, that it's that instant connection. And I've watched him and I've seen him go through his stuff, and I've seen him arrive to this level, and it's almost more or less like a spiritual experience, because just seeing it and then hearing the things that he went through beforehand and arriving to where he is now, it just basically just sets the tone for everything. We basically met in a gym. Dan was a personal trainer in the gym, and I was there, the big gym person that I am, thinking that I knew it all, and the competition just came right instantly, and we were competing left and right. We were competing to the point where, it was just comical in a way, you know what I mean? But it was also fulfilling at the same time, because we both were achieving different levels and learning from each other at the same time. And he would tell me stuff, and I would tell him stuff, and I thought I knew it all. He knew it all, and it was just a great combination. And along those times, when you meet each other, you share things that you experience and going through. And I shared with him about things that I was going through, being in recovery and my extent, and then the part about, getting into fitness. And not only that, but the relationship aspect of things. And, that's how the bond was formed. So, I don't want to tell his story. I'm going to let him tell his story. So I'm going to pass it over to Dan and let him go from that point. But here's my buddy, my brother, Dan.
Appreciate that, big bro.
Nah.
Yeah, he kind of almost got me a little emotional over here. And we were talking, because we were just talking about before we came on, about how many years that we've known each other. And we went back all the way to what? It was 2010?
Mm-hmm. Probably even further than that.
Yeah, I'm like, yo, that's an amount of years. And like he said, man, he met in the gym. Let me say this. Let me introduce myself again to you. Daniel J.Williams. I'm a men's mindset and performance coach. I show men, how to reframe the way they look at making their mistakes, bad decisions, and poor choices. I show them how to course correct and pivot and move out of living in those cycles of frustration, or feeling like you got to go through burnout, being in regret, and feeling undervalued, and showing them that a performance-driven identity is really a people-pleasing identity.
Right.
So I show them how to walk out of that by using biblical wisdom and real-life strategies to do this, so that they can actually be men of presence, integrity, and character. I've been married previously. I have 6 children. I have four daughters, 2 sons. got 2 granddaughters, 1 grandson. I'm remarried now, and I guess I'm gonna talk to the men that's gonna be viewing more than anything, but the women, the wives, the girlfriends, sisters, mothers, whoever listening, you'll be able to grab a lot out of this as well. But I think because I'm a men's mindset and performance coach, and what brought me to a place of being at that was like saying, me and Rue, we met in the gym. I was a trainer, and with the physical fitness, there's an aspect of an emotional thing and a mental thing. And I would usually have to talk with my clients about, why they weren't being consistent with their eating habits, why you're not being consistent with your training. And there's always something emotional, something mental that's going on. It's a block from something, or they're saying that I just came in, I want to lose weight because I want to go on this cruise, or I just want to fit in this dress. And then asking certain questions, and it'll dig deeper into, so what makes you feel like you couldn't be what you want to look like wearing this dress right now? And it keeps going deeper, and it pull back the layers. So eventually it kind of led me into saying, I'm almost being like a therapist for you guys. And that would kind of led me into looking at being a life coach. I didn't really want to say a life coach though,
Right.
because everybody was being a life coach.
Exactly.
And
Right about that.
it was because this is what made me focus on men. And I'll share my story with you a little and go into it a little bit. But what made me really consider being a mindset and performance coach for men was the fact that I survived myself. My first marriage, it collapsed because of me, and I wasn't a great husband at all. I wasn't the best father that I could be, although I was a great provider. I was there, but I wasn't present the way that I should be, and it collapsed. I fell apart. I was on drugs. I drank, and all of that. And then once I finally came to Christ, because I got tired. As far as we go as men, and I believe every man, I don't even have to ask this question and wait for you to respond. I believe that every man, we don't stop and make a change in ourselves until we smack the wall.
Yes,
We don't stop until we've hurt so much, until we can't take any more hurt. And that's what made me change. And now my mission, what God has given me, I'm going to say it like this, guys. I don't usually say it this way. But God has given me the ministry of helping men reform, reevaluate themselves, go back to God, realign, recalibrate, reset, and reintroduce themselves to themselves, and then reintroduce themselves to whomever they need to in their life, their wife, their children. Reintroduce yourselves, because the only way for our families to really change the dynamics of our society, our culture, is for the men to be not back in a place of so much dominance, but to be back in the place of godly influence, being led by God so that they can have not just a morally correct influence, but a godly influence.
And that's a ministry. that is,
Yeah,
no matter how you look, that's the ministry. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a ministry. So I guess let me start here. I'll give you a little bit of the middle part of my story that it can kind of pull back to the beginning of it and then bring you up to date. I like to use the analogy of dealing with problems is think about quicksand. Quicksand isn't a thing it's not as dangerous as the movies depict it to be. It's not a vortex beneath the quicksand that'll pull you under to a place out of existence. Typically, a pocket of quicksand is only about 2 to 4 feet in depth. So I mean, it'll only come up to maybe your waist, or in some cases it might come up to your chest depending on your height. But rarely do you ever hear anybody drowning because of quicksand. But here's the thing about quicksand. You're not able to distinguish it when you're walking along because it looks just like the solid ground that's in front of you. So your mistakes, your bad decisions, your poor choices, well, maybe poor choices. Mistakes and bad decisions, you don't intend to make those, but as you're going along, they happen. That's the same thing with like stepping into quicksand. You don't expect for it, you don't look for it, but you get in it, and what makes it so dangerous is you're struggling to get out. Instead of being calm and not thinking about how did I miss this? What am I gonna do? Just be calm and be like, okay, how do I move and maneuver to get out of this? This is so I use the quicksand because that's what I lived my life in quicksand. I couldn't drown in it, but because you're in it, the vacuum around your legs, around your feet, the water and the sand, it compacts. The more you try to move, it compacts, and then as you try to lift yourself, it continues to hold you in place. And that's kind of like the life I was living. When I got married, right? My first marriage, I got married. I had a girlfriend on the day that I exchanged vows with my wife.
Oh wow.
On the day that I exchanged vows, I had a girlfriend. So I went into it wrong, and I had girlfriends all throughout the marriage. I was never in a place of being faithful and honest. And I can't count where I would go for a stretch of 6 months or a year or something because I was still being dishonest. You know, so that was the first thing. And what made me, I would say, choose that? It was the behavior that I already had, because in all honesty, I think all men, they experience this as boys. Agree with me. When we go to start school, the first thing when we come home, the older brother, older cousins, uncles, or whatever, first thing they're gonna ask you, they're not gonna ask you what you learned, how many girlfriends you get. From the start, we were taught that we were supposed to have an overconsumption of girls, that we're supposed to have a variety of girls. We were never taught as young boys, and even growing up, and even as we got to begin to be older, then they'd go from how many girlfriends you have, how many girls you like, how many girls like you, that I got to teach you how to be a player and whatnot. We were never taught anything about a commitment to a single person. We were always taught many, variety, several at one time. So it wasn't that I just wanted to cheat. That was the behavior that I had. So the lesson in that is this: your singleness, young men, your singleness is not for random dating. It's for you to know who you are. It's for you to get stability in your life. When you get a wife, you're not thinking about a wife while you're single, but when you do, you don't want to have to scramble around and try and figure out who you are, try and figure out what your future needs to be to have stability for somebody. You'd already be walking into that, and you know you'd already be ready. That would eliminate a lot of those financial arguments and struggles and talks that happens in marriages. You know, so that was one of the reasons why I started my marriage with a girlfriend, and I kept girlfriends. I never knew anything about a committed relationship. It was never taught to me. So, I mean, that's just something, hey, take that and reflect on that, because I know a lot of you guys, you are in those same shoes. It's not that you're choosing to be choosing infidelity. It's not that I didn't really want to do it, although I did it. I made the decision to do it, but that was my nature. That was all that I did. That was the pattern of my lifestyle for so long that saying vows wasn't just going to turn that off. So don't lie to yourself and say that, you know, you get married, you love her. Yeah, you love her. I loved my wife, but I couldn't break off of what I was doing. And it was a spirit of lust that I was under.
Absolutely. I was going to say that, but you just took it. Absolutely.
Yeah, it was a spirit of lust that I was under. It was really heavy because it wasn't really about the women so much. It was about that spirit needing to be satisfied. You know, I'll be honest with you. When I was out there, you know, it might have been multiple women in a night, which goes to say, it had nothing to do about a single woman. I could have been with 2 or 3 women in the same night over a weekend because that spirit wanted to be satisfied. And in the same time, that spirit also wanted to destroy my life and wreck my destiny by keeping me attached to so many different women all over the place. It was fragmenting my soul. I didn't know my identity. I couldn't be satisfied and be still because, you know what, I left a piece of me over here and I left a piece of me over there and I left a piece of me over there. It looks good in the physical to say that, you know what,
Soul ties.
all these, but yep, soul ties. Soul ties is real. You think about this. Think about this with some of the women that you dealt with, that you laid down with. And you be like, why do I like this food? I never craved this before. Or certain habits that you pick up and you like, where did this come from? Because you picked up, you exchanged essence. Actually, it was really, you think about it like this, if I'll just be straight with you, it was really like an orgy of demons. You know, there was a transference of demons, because there's a transference in sexual intercourse. There's a transference there, because there was an attraction. It was like those destructive things that were in her were attracted to the destructive things in you, because they're all unclean spirits.
Absolutely.
But in order to grab you and hold you in sin, even the greater, or to have a greater hold on you as far as lust goes, it's like, okay, we're gonna trade off, and I'm gonna add some new things in him, and sometimes it's deposited in you and it doesn't show up for years.
Yeah.
There's demons that are incubating, sit dormant, and they're scheduled. I don't know if this is good for y'all or not. I might be getting off topic. I thought it's turned into a Bible study almost.
That's okay though, because that's what it's real talk, real change. So it's all about real talk. It's real, and you keeping it real. So no, you fine.
Okay, but that's what held me for so many years. It wasn't the fact that, you know, we would say the symptoms of it is look like I'm being a whore, a womanizer, and I couldn't explain what it was, because my wife would ask me over and over, well, why would you do this to me? Why you keep cheating on me? If you say you love me, I was like, I don't know. And that's why you're supposed to find out who you are while you're single. That's why you're supposed to have your spiritual thing, your spiritual health together. Have your spiritual connection with God together, because see, that way you'll be pure. Yeah. If you first work on who you are spiritually, your spiritual health, your emotional health, if you get those things in place, then you'll have your identity of who you really supposed to be. You'll have your purpose, and you'll be driven in that, so that you wouldn't be distracted and pulled by all these other things.
Right.
You know, you can look at an attractive woman but not be aroused by it. I tell you, I went home from the gym one time, one day excited. I was like, this is so crazy. I'm going home from the gym. I was all excited. I went home. I told my wife, I like, yo, babe, you know what? I was in the gym this morning, man. Yo, these ladies walking around. They had on these little things and whatnot. They was looking good too. They had nice bodies, beautiful ladies. I'm talking to my wife like this, and they was attractive. But guess what? I wasn't aroused. I ain't have no fantasies, no images running in my head. I ain't do that. I ain't do a look and another look. I ain't do any of that. I actually have authority over the spirit of lust now.
You've been delivered.
I've been delivered. Lust doesn't bother me. It doesn't have any. I have authority over it now. I can look at a woman, and I thank God that I have a wife that I can have that conversation with. Because you know what? If you're guilty of something, you can't go back and tell your wife. You know, I was looking at this lady. She looked good. She had a nice body and whatnot, but I wasn't aroused. She was attractive, but I wasn't aroused. I wasn't attracted to her. There wasn't a spirit in me that was attracted to her that made me lust for her. I saw she was attractive, and that was it. I didn't get aroused. I didn't think about her later in the day or another time. You know, what direction you want? What direction you want?
No, I mean,
going with this?
hey, everything you say, it makes a lot of sense, because you know, when you go through these things, and you get into these positions, and then a lot of times you're wondering, where did I go wrong, and what's the change, and what the outcome is from this point on, because at some point or another, a lot of these things, they start to consume you. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? And you could play that round robin effect thinking that you're going to seek and get that attention here. And when you don't get it there, you run to the next one to seek the same attention and so forth and whatnot. And a lot of times, you live in a lie. You know what I mean? You're caught up in a lie. And then when does the lie end to say, this is not right or this is not appropriate?
was my
You know what I mean? And then how do you come about changing these things? Because a lot of times, these things are a lot of the things all you know. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
the things that you do all the time. That's your lifestyle. You know what I mean? So now when you reform from that lifestyle, someone has to implant a seed in there to say it's something different other than this. You know what I mean? It's something better than this. And when you relieve yourself of that, you know what I mean? How did you go about that change?
Yeah, what was the turnaround like? What made you? What you know what I'm saying? What made you stop? Like,
Okay, you know,
where you
I-
where you knew? I'm sorry, where you knew that okay, this ain't
Well,
right, and
yeah,
you know,
I knew I knew it wasn't right all the time, so it continued on. I think my first marriage, we were married like 14 years, and it just collapsed. By the
Oh,
time
wow.
I came around to realizing and just saying, you know what, I'm gonna cut all of this off and whatnot. I'd done too much for to salvage the marriage. She done had enough. She done pulled away and everything. So it dissolved and we separated. But and I still went. The lust still had me. I increased in my drinking and my drug use. You know, because my kids weren't with me. The kids went with my ex-wife. So I was by myself. So everything increased. I mean, it pushed me that much faster. So what really brought me to the point of saying it's time to really bring this to an end was I was homeless. I was sleeping in my car. I was living in my car, and it wasn't crazy thing. Now this is God, because I wasn't homeless because I was reckless with my money. I didn't know how to budget my money. That's how God had to get my attention. I just reached 40 when this happened.
oh, okay.
I was 40 years old. I never had ever dealt with not having money, not being able. I couldn't get approved for apartments. I was working a job. I made the income, but I couldn't get approved. This was God's hand, and I was sitting one night, and I had a bag of Coke. I had a bottle of alcohol. I had a bottle of liquor, and I was doing it. And I just broke down, started crying. The change was, I didn't want a change in my life. I wanted a change in my heart. I tell younger guys, when I'm talking to younger guys, when I'm mentoring younger guys, that you know, in my final court case that I had, I didn't pray for him to I didn't pray for God to just let the judge give me a lenient sentence or that I not have to do time. I like, Lord, I'm tired of this. I don't want to be before no judges no more. Change my heart so I don't do the things that I've been doing. Because the change of heart will cause you to change your behavior, change the way that you think. It'll change who you pick to be around. It'll change the places that you go. So the change in your heart, the internal change, will cause the external change. Because now you got the Spirit of God leading you, and you're just not going to go back in those places to keep getting those same results. And that's what brought me to the place of absolute change. You know, I ended up giving my my ex-wife, the type of apology that she deserved for all of the years that I took her through the things that I took her through. I had to do an apology with each one of my children individually, because what I did during that time, it affected each one of them differently. I had the maturity, and that was wisdom. I was led by God to give me that type of wisdom, rather than just getting all my kids together and making an apology, because it wouldn't have went over as well with everybody. So I gave each one of them an apology, and ask them, how did this affect you? And now, you know, all my kids are adults now, and we have the best relationship. Me and my ex-wife, we're friends now. We get along, and I say I'm a man of God now.
Amen.
And me saying I'm a man of God now, it hasn't changed my personality, changed my character. You don't have to change your personality to accept Christ. Christ isn't going to change your personality. He gave you the personality that you have, but it's the character that's flawed. He wants you to get his character. If you think, and if you want to know what the character of God is, for those that read their Bibles, I can't remember the chapter and verse. It's in Galatians, but it talks about the fruit of the Spirit. This is a slight biblical study right here. When you think about the fruit of the Spirit, don't think about individual things that you need to try and work towards and grow in. Fruit of the Spirit: love, joy, peace, patience, gentleness, goodness, kindness, faithfulness, self-control. Those are all things that we need to have. But the fruit of the Spirit, think about it. All of those things make up who God is. The fruit of the Spirit is really just the presence of God. It's not individual things you need to work towards. Like, I need to work on self-control. I need to work on, if you have to work on one thing, then you don't have the other things. The other things are ineffective if one of the other things is not effective. If you don't have that working, then the other things are going to be ineffective. So the fruit of the Spirit is really just the presence of God. So all of those things, you learn to be those things with you first. Love yourself. That comes from loving God. You'll have joy in your life. Be gentle. I used to say that. I was like, Lord, I need to work on patience today, or I need to work on self-control today. What about being gentle and kind to yourself? What about having patience with yourself? What about the faithfulness that you're going to have? See, all of those things, you can't, it's like, it says a fruit. The reason why it says it's a fruit, because you have the stem of the fruit, you have the outer layer of the fruit, you have the inner layer of the fruit, you have the skin, you have the meat, you have the seeds. You can't break it apart and have the seed separate from the rest of the fruit. See, that's how we be trying to break apart that scripture and say working on these certain parts. The seed is the fruit. The meat is the fruit. The outer layer of the skin is the fruit. It takes all of those things in order for it to be fruit. So I just turned over and allowed the Spirit to lead me and guide me in those things, and now I'm really passionate about bringing men back to God, so that men could turn and really figure out who they are, because now culture has us being so performance driven.
Right.
You have to have this net worth. You have to be in this social circle. You have to be living in this home. You have to be driving this car. All of these things are performance driven, and if you're performance driven, and if you're chasing after all those things, most men not going to want to hear this, but this might wake you up. If you're a performance driven man, you're a people pleaser, because you ain't doing any of those things for yourself. You're doing them to get the girl. You're doing them to be associated, to be accepted by the social group, to be associated with the social group. You're doing everything that you're doing in your life, you're doing it for somebody else to say, okay, I'll accept you, come on over. None of it's for you. So you're a people pleaser. I hope that would set you straight and maybe really make you sit back and be like,
Think about that.
dang, man, you know what? I am doing this just so they can, yeah, it was a reality check for me. I was a people pleaser, and I never would have thought that I was a people pleaser, and it starts from our youth. We want to tell our older cousins and uncles that we got this many girlfriends, we got this many phone numbers, in order to impressing them. But then you go deeper. In order to impress them, now you have to put on a face and a mask. You got to figure out what the girls like. So now you're doing everything for the girl to like you and accept you and whatnot. You're back into another place of people pleasing. So you're taking on another identity, a different identity. Then you want to be liked and accepted by certain groups, the cool kids or whatever. So now you got to talk like, you got to dress like, you have to act like them. Once again, you've taken on another identity. Where are you? Our identities have been lost long ago. We never had an identity. Because we picked up an identity for this group and for this group and for these people. For them to like me, I need to act like this. They like for me to talk like this and dress like this. I like how they're doing, so I'm gonna imitate that. And even if you couldn't get the girl, or even if you couldn't be a part of the group, you may have been friends with somebody that was close to them, so you still had to play the role to kiss up to them and whatnot to get to where you wanted to go. A whole life of lies.
And you know that goes both ways though. That's females. It's the same.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the same. It's the same thing. So yeah, it's the same thing.
It's a life of lies. So I mean, you know, if anything, if the greater thing that I say, if you take away from this, is really sit back and be like, yo, what am I really doing for me, for real? I really am. And it's not, you're not doing anything for other people as in far as being a generous person. It's being a people pleaser. You're doing it to be accepted, to be validated, to be liked, when God is the only one that needs to validate you, needs to endorse you. He's the only one that needs to accept you. Once you're accepted by him, because he said, you're my son, if you accept him, if you accept his son, Jesus, and you accept him, then now he adopts you as his. Now you don't have that orphan spirit of like, I need to be accepted by somebody. I wish they would love me. I hope they'll like me. I hope they'll accept me. And then you feel bad when people start, yeah, hey, you want to walk away? Walk away. You know what? Because you know what? The inheritance you have with God is greater than anything a human being can offer you, promise you, or try and sell you. Honestly.
That's true. That's true.
So,
Hey man, you did a good job, man.
So you're
Real good job.
so
I'm not a minister.
what's your that you do now? What is it? Act accordingly.
Act accordingly. My men's mindset and performance group. I right now I mentor a group of young boys, young men, middle school and high school. I was doing a mentor group through the school year. I'll be back to doing that. That's in Sumter at Reagan Preparatory Christian Academy, where I do mentorship there for the middle school and high school boys. And I'm building a men's community for men to come together and have a safe place. I don't know if I should say a safe place, but just have a place to where you can come together with men that I don't want to say like-minded, because we're not all going to be like-minded in the beginning. We're going to all want the same goal and reaching for the same thing. It's like, I'm not better off then, but I found my alignment with God. I found my alignment. I found peace. I found stability. So it's to help bring men out of a place of feeling burned out from having to perform, for feeling regret from the things that you missed the mark in, you dropped the ball on, and feeling undervalued, being like, I'm doing everything I can do, I do everything I do, and I'm just not being recognized. I want to help you reframe that narrative. And I use biblical wisdoms to do this, and I use real life strategies at the same time too. It's not a beat you over the head with the Bible. God says this, God says that. It's real life strategies. There's a lot of stories in the Bible that I could use, that I do use. Like, for instance, I can use this right here. 3 different guys in the Bible. There's a guy named Gideon, there's a guy named Samson, and a guy named Joshua. Now, the difference with these guys, what all ties them together is their faith. Faith is what is the main theme between these guys. Go back and read your Bible if you don't know about these guys. Joshua was the man that took over with leading the children of Israel you know, into the promised land after Moses died. That's Joshua. And then Gideon was a guy that was one of the judges. Go to the book of Judges to read about Gideon. Gideon and Samson were both judges in the book of Judges. But Gideon, he had self-esteem issues. When God found him, he was hiding out, and he called him a mighty man of valor. And he's like, you make a mistake. You ain't talking about me. He said, my tribe is the smallest of the tribes, and my family is the smallest clan of the tribe, and I'm the least person in my family. He thought very low of himself. Samson had a degree of arrogance about him. Joshua, he didn't have self-confidence. They teach us a lot about self-confidence, but he didn't have self-confidence. All of his confidence was in God. He trusted God absolutely. His faith was in him absolutely, and that's why God told him, he said, to go and be courageous. He told him that everywhere that you go, you will have success. And that's what happened. As the children of Israel went forward, being led by Joshua, the lands, they feared him. They feared his reputation, not because he was such a military strategist, but because the people knew that they trusted and believed in a God that supported them and backed them. Gideon, he didn't have the type of faith that Joshua had. Gideon had to keep going back to God. He's like, well, if I'm gonna really do that, then I need you to show me something to let me know that you're for real. He's like, so you take this fleece and let the fleece be wet and let the ground be dry around it. And he did, God did that. Then he said, okay, let me ask you one more thing, God. Let the ground be wet and let the fleece be dry. God did that for him. He had to see that God was real and give him examples, give him a track record of being able to trust him, and that's what led to Gideon building up his faith as a man. Samson, God gave him his strength. Average guy, ordinary looking guy, despite what they do in the movies, because think about it. The people wondered, where did he get his strength from? If he was built up like that, it would have been obvious that, hey, he's a very muscular guy, but he was an ordinary guy, but he was arrogant with his strength and what he did. Go back and read the stories. I'm not going to go through it all. We don't have time. But he ended up losing his strength because of his arrogance. He played around with a woman named Delilah, and he eventually told her the truth of where his strength was. It didn't lie in his hair. It was really his faith that because he was a Nazarite, that because he never cut his hair, he didn't drink wine, he was not supposed to touch dead things. If you go back and read the story, he did everything except cutting his hair. He did everything that he was not supposed to do. He was not supposed to intermingle or marry women outside of his tribe. He was an Israelite. He married a Philistine. He loved those Philistine women. The very women that God told him not to intermarry with. He did that. Go back and read the story. But anyway, he was arrogant with his thing, and he felt like, he could accomplish anything, and God brought him down to lesser, and he had to end up going back. He's like, God, I'm sorry. My strength comes from you. So his faith in God was rocked because of his arrogance. 3 different men. We all live in this space. Some of us are going to walk in absolute faith in God because we're going to absolutely trust him. Some of us, we have to get our faith built up in God from a place of where we were broken and we didn't believe, and he has to show us things again and again. He did it by little things, but eventually Gideon's faith was rooted in God deeply. Samson, through his arrogance, he fell, but God didn't allow him to stay there. Samson had a mind to say, you know what, God, it was on me. You were good to me, and I misused what you gave me. You can entrust me to have it back again, and I'll be faithful. God gave it back to him. Three different men, and all of them dealing with faith, but there are 3 different kind of men. So there's nothing that God can't do to pull you out of where you are. We can all get to that Joshua type of faith and have success in everything that we do. But some of us, we have to recover from being like Samson. Some of us, we have to be built up like Gideon had to be built up in order for him to go on to do what he did. All of them mighty men of God, but their faith had to have different walks of faith.
So what's the like the age that you deal with?
As far as the young guys go, I'm gonna say I think the youngest of my guys was like 10. So it started at age 10 to maybe like 18. You know, for young men. With those young men, I talk with them about really developing their character.
Right.
You know, letting them know that your reputation is the thing that you're supposed to be working on and building while you're single. Because a man's name is more important than anything else. Because if you have a good name, good reputation about you, it'll precede you when people talk about you. Oh yeah, that guy. He's dependable. He's reliable. You know, he's trustworthy. So you want to have a good name about you, and not so much just look good. You know, so I talk to them a lot about that character. Having a firm handshake, looking a man in his eyes when you talk, project your voice when you talk. Don't just look down and mumbling and talking slow. Stuff like that. And then, when I'm dealing with men, it's really a one-on-one. So,
okay.
Men, it's one-on-one, but I'm building a community because you know what? I commend the ladies. You guys, you don't have a problem with community.
Right.
It's like, I can't really remember who we met, but did we hit it off, but we ain't really like connect until And men, that's what we'll do. We'll vibe with somebody, but we don't get the number, we don't connect, stay in contact and whatnot, and that's what's missing for us. And that's why we sit alone and we cry by ourselves and we suffer, because you know what, we don't want to build community. We just, because we've been told, we have to figure it out ourselves and whatnot. God is the only one who's sufficient in himself and doesn't need anything outside of him. We need community. That's why God, in Genesis, he didn't just say it's not good for man to be alone for a romantic thing, because it takes community. It takes community. In order for us to grow, stay together and be strong. I mean, that's why you have military forces, because there's strength in numbers. That's why you have certain other support groups and there's strength in numbers. There's wisdom in numbers.
Yeah, I think the last time that you were telling me about a lot of the stuff you did, I mentioned to you about that movie that me and my wife watched called Forge. And that explained a lot of it, you know what I mean? And that's geared up to a lot of the stuff that you're doing now, basically letting men know at the level they are, as far as growing, as far as business, as far as their spiritual growth, as far as standing up right and being a man, and knowing that they're capable of achieving things. And not only that, but basically passing that message on to the next man. You know what I mean? This is what we did, this is where we are, and we have a group of men that hold you up, and that's what it did. And if you put it together like that, you know what I mean, I can't see nothing but success, because God ordained it, and when he ordained it, he will definitely carry it through.
Yeah, so I mean, we talk a lot about
Now, as far as older men, because I could, just from me seeing, I don't know, like, but I would tend to think the younger boys would be more apt to listen opposed to older ones.
This is what I found true with the younger guys, as well as middle-aged guys. I say guys that's my age. That when I went to the school and I was talking to the younger guys, when I told them that, you know what, I sold drugs, I carried guns, I did drugs. I mean, court cases that I had and whatnot. They were like,
they want to,
because there's a difference when you tell somebody, you know what, instead of doing that, you do this right here. Right. But when you say, okay, man, when I was in that, then they're like, okay, you actually know what I'm
Right,
talking about.
right,
And so
right.
it ends up
Makes a
kind of being the
difference.
same thing with,
Yeah.
with the other, with older guys too. I tell my story first and they be like, cause some people are looking, a lot of things that I talk about and say is like, what?
Yeah, you'd be surprised.
Yeah, I like
yeah.
you met Daniel now, but you didn't know about Jermaine. That's my middle name. It was uh, it was a whole nother world and a whole different guy. You know, I wasn't somebody, I wasn't a bully. I wasn't hard to get along with or anything, but you know, I was misdirected because you know we were born in sin and iniquity. So you know what, that had us 1st. You know, we're all God's creation, but we're not His children until we give our life to Christ.
Right.
We're all His creation, but we're not all His children. We're only His children when we give our life to Christ. You know, so I don't know. You might be upset about that, but you know what? Google it. You can find that in your Bible. You're not His child
say your
until
Bible.
you give your life to Christ. We're all His creation. He created us all. He loves us all, but we're not all His children. I don't know why I said that, but
Because somebody need to hear it.
Some of the stuff you said it because you were chosen to say it, and a lot of times we get up here in front of this, you know, God has a certain thing that He wants to persuade
To direct,
to
yeah,
everybody,
direct.
even
Yeah.
you know, even me. There's so many similar things in both of our stories. You know what I mean? That I can see why we gravitated towards each other. You know what I mean? Because you know it's about bind and grind and basically coming and evolving. And then when we evolve, you know what I mean? We already looked at all the other stuff. So now, what kind of picture are you painting, or what are you presenting towards people? And basically, everything else shows, and you, like you say, your character. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
A character, and you know, I like your slogan on your shirt,
At
act
the core,
accordingly,
yeah, I do too.
because
Yeah.
it fits the term.
At the core,
you know
yeah.
what I mean?
it's a call to action. It's a call to action. It's a reminder. It's like, I don't know how would I want to say it. Both young men and older guys, you know, we have to drop the survival instinct that we've been living with all our lives. We've been surviving. We've been just kind of making it off of, you know, not wanting to look incorrect, wrong, or inadequate. Mistakes happen because you're learning. You don't have the experience in a thing, so you're going to make mistakes because you don't have experience in it. You don't know. You have to make mistakes. Those aren't things to be embarrassed about. Being embarrassed, what you should be embarrassed is you're not growing. You're staying in the same place. Be embarrassed about that, because you know why is it going to be embarrassing? Everybody else is going to be moving on and you're still in that same place because you don't want to make a mistake in something you don't know about. Now, a bad decision is you're not intentionally wanting to make the wrong choice, the wrong decision, but you move because you may have still been not fully informed on what you were doing, or you didn't realize that there could be consequences that could be so bad afterwards. That's a bad decision. It's still not a thing that you need to be ashamed of. You rushed into it, you had little information, you were a little too zealous. That's a bad decision. But a poor choice is knowing that you're gonna have consequences of things. Me being married and me looking at this other woman and wanting her, that was a poor choice. I knew there would be consequences if I got caught. That's the difference between a mistake, a bad decision, and a poor choice. The mistake is unintentional. You absolutely had no knowledge, you had no experience with it before, so that's learning. The bad decision is still unintentional, but you didn't expect for there to be a bad result or consequences because you moved uninformed or you moved prematurely. But the poor choice, that was a decision. You weighed out that, you know what, I know I shouldn't do that, but I think I can maneuver this the way I won't get caught. That's the difference between the three.
A poor choice. What's the other two? Bad decision.
The mistake,
A
the
mistake.
bad decision, and the poor choice. The poor choice that's deliberate. That's intentional. The other two, you know, you can also bounce back from the poor choice, but there's gonna have to be some things that you're gonna have to realign, straighten out. You're gonna have to apologize, ask for forgiveness, and
Right.
forgive yourself. Don't live in regret. Stop
Amen.
living in regret. Forgive
Amen.
yourself, man. Mistakes are unintentional. Bad decisions are unintentional. Poor choices are intentional, but once you realize you made it and you want to make amends, you apologize, you ask for forgiveness from the person, from the people, and you forgive yourself. You get your forgiveness. God already is forgiving you. He just says accept it. That's the hardest part for us as men, is to accept that we've been forgiven.
So what happens when you continue to make bad decisions? I mean, I think we make bad decisions, but I think we're aware too of that could be a bad decision.
Yeah, but it moves from being a bad decision into a poor choice when you consciously, you know that you messed up there, and you keep on returning to it. It turns into a poor choice then.
When you keep repeating it over and over.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
it's not a mistake anymore. Because you know it's wrong. You figured out it's wrong. Now you say, okay, that's how that works. I don't think I want to go back into that. But if you found some type of enjoyment, some type of pleasure out of it, and you keep going back, knowing that it has consequences, then you're making a poor choice, and you want to be there.
Yeah, makes sense. Okay.
I want to take the time out to
That's
to
good.
say I'm in the presence of two journalists, and you guys take the time to plug your books in, you know what I mean? Because you guys got a lot to offer to a lot of people. So, I mean, at the same point, you know, plug in these books that you've written and you know, so people can experience more about it. I know Dan, you said you wrote a book, and you forgot to bring your book, and,
Yeah, you should
and
write your
Judy
book.
didn't have hers up here to put, but. you
Well,
know
I
what
had
mean?
I put mine up. I already put mine out there, so it's already. But I'm getting ready to do a second one, so I got to get that second one going.
Yeah, I've written a book. It's called the Act Accordingly series. Think on Your Thoughts. The Act Accordingly series, Think on Your Thoughts, is available on Amazon. It's a 30-day devotional.
Oh,
It's,
okay.
and although I'm a men's mindset and performance coach, the book is not directed directly to men.
No, that's good.
It's for anybody. It challenges you about your belief systems, your thoughts, certain behaviors you have. What is filled with on day to day is I give a Danielism, one of my thoughts, and then I have a scripture that that coincides with it, and then I have a story. It could be some sports stories or something real life that gives an illustration of a false belief or a destructive belief or habit or something that we're working with, and how to work through it and resolve it and come out on the other end of it. And it also has some journaling prompts in it. So think on your thoughts.
Think on your thoughts. Okay. Act accordingly. You said that's on Amazon.
Amazon, yeah, it's on Amazon. The Act Accordingly series. Think on your thoughts. And if you want to find me, find out where I'm located. My website is www.actaccordingly.com. www.actaccordingly.com. I'm on IG, 2 Act Accordingly. I'm on TikTok, 2 Act Accordingly to find me. On Facebook, my regular name, Daniel J.Williams.
Yeah, because you did it live yesterday on TikTok, didn't you?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes,
I
yes.
was trying to find it, but I couldn't find it. I never thought about
Yeah,
act accordingly.
It
Look
was,
up what act accordingly.
yeah, it was later in the evening. I did a live with a brother of mine out of Chicago.
Oh,
Coach
okay.
Martinez.
Okay. Well, thank you, Dan. We appreciate
Definitely.
you coming and taking the time
Thank you for having
to
me.
have this
Hope I
discussion
didn't
with
spill too much.
No, you didn't, and I know that somebody got something
I
out
hope
of
so.
it. Yeah, I'm quite sure. I really appreciate it.
She'll tag you in here on this video so your people can get
Yeah,
a thing of what's going on, and I'm definitely gonna share it myself because I got a lot out of it, man.
Yeah,
you know, and I got to know you even more. So, you know, I really appreciate you taking the time to come through and help us out on her podcast.
Oh, you know I got y'all,
Oh,
man.
yeah.
You know,
and to come here, y'all. Usually I do it right live on Facebook, but we was having some difficulties yesterday trying to
Yeah, see, it was
trying to get
meant
set
for us-
up, so it was meant for
us
this
to
to
have
happen.
sit together.
Yeah, it was
right,
meant
yeah.
for us to
We
yeah.
family, so we
Yeah.
have to do it a little more intimate
ours
than
is a
anybody
little
else
bit
can
different.
have it.
Yeah. So we appreciate you being here, and we definitely gonna have you come back because I want to
glad
do.
to be
Yeah,
back.
we're gonna do
Yeah.
something again, and
We can have a little
your
more
wife.
formal next
yeah,
time.
have your wife
Oh,
here
yeah.
too, and
Yeah,
we
that'd
can
be
have,
great.
Yeah, we can have something going on. Baby, you got something to say?
No, I said, y'all said it all. I know I gotta get up early in the morning, so.
Last thing I want to say is, all right, there's this scripture. I think it's James 4, I think it's 4 and 17. It says, to know what you ought to do and not do it is a sin. Act accordingly.
Act accordingly.
You heard
Now
that?
you've been given some strategies, you've been given some things to look on for self-examination, for reflection, for taking inventory. If you know what you can do, and to not do it is a sin. So that means act accordingly. Take care of yourself.
Act accordingly. Y'all have a blessed night, and also remember, tomorrow I will be live on TikTok at 7 o'clock. So more discussion. I don't know yet exactly what, but I'll have something for y'all tomorrow at 7 on TikTok. Y'all have a blessed night.
We gotta get ready, get ready. We gotta get ready, get ready.